You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalog. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Ligers.
Recorded 27th of April 2025.
Welcome to Celtic Ligers.
Welcome to Celtic Ligers. I forgot what I was talking about. What was the thing that prompted you to say we should record this?
You were talking about the most beta man in Ireland.
Oh yeah, sorry. Now I remember. Yeah, Jarlath Regan used to have this podcast called Men Behaving Better. And he had like people on, men and women, to talk about like what else but how men can behave better. And he said one time he had this guy on, and the guy said that they were on like a crowded underground, and there was a guy there was like a train or something anyway, and so there was a guy who was being a creep to this lady, and he was like, I can't stand toe to toe with this guy, but what I'll do is I'll text the number that tells the police to get on at the next stop, okay?
Right.
So he did that. And then the police got on at the next stop, but that time your man like quietened down. And then the train moved off and the police got off. And then the guy turned on the woman. He was like, you fucking texted the police on me. and like shit kicked off and he started getting real aggro with her. And then like, you know, eventually he got off at the next stop. And then the woman got up and she went, thanks everyone for doing absolutely nothing. And he was like, but I didn't do nothing. I texted the number. What do you want me to do? That's what I kind of felt like with my little story. You know,
yeah, that guy did less than nothing. Texting is doing less than nothing.
Yeah, because I'd like to think
the other guys on the train, they had to like live with the fact that they did nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas that guy has a sense of, well, I did something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't do anything.
No, he didn't.
So I have no sympathy for that. I was going to call him a man, but he's not even a man at all.
Bless.
I don't know. How do you feel about Jarlath Regan? I feel like I don't like him.
I have very mixed feelings towards him because I think I don't find him particularly funny.
No.
I thought his podcast had some interesting episodes. I used to find them very funny, if you can believe it, because he was on the panel and he did like a number of bits on the panel which I really enjoyed, because he had this very like deadpan delivery, and he would I know it sounds crazy, it sounds mental to say this about comedy, but imagine where you're watching the panel and that's like what you think the height of comedy is, or you watch like the Comedy Store on Paramount Comedy, and so then he would show up at the panel and he took out a chart that he'd made at home.
Whoa.
And I was like, this is alternative comedy.
Yeah.
And I thought that he was really dry, really deadpan, really kind of cynical, and I thought, this guy fucking rules. And then his comedy kind of, anytime I watched it afterwards, it became very like earnest and like, lads comedy. And I don't mean lads as in like lads banter. I mean like when, you know, the way that Irish Twitter uses lads, like, lads, have you seen this here? Lads, we need to get down, and, you know, kind of.
Yeah. We need to get down.
We need to get down. I'm trying to think of something that would be lads comedy and failing.
What would you know, that guy we both know, what would he say?
Which guy we both know?
You know, the guy, I don't want to give out too many identifying characteristics, but he has a wife,
as a wife.
has a podcast that you were on.
I've been on so few Okay, yeah. No, I know exactly who you're talking about now. I saw him in an airport once. I saw him in London airport not too long ago, and wearing the same shirt.
Right. You and he. You and him were wearing the same shirt.
No. He's wearing the same shirt that he was like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And he's like walking towards me, blanked me. Just hatred. Man does not like me.
No.
Yeah, funny that. What would he say? I mean, I don't know why I thought about this. I thought about like maybe there's like an ad in the newspaper and it's like 2-for-1 scramblers and it'd be like, lads, who's with me?
Oh,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of like, it's just a bit of harmless fun on the internet.
Yeah.
By a bunch of people who are now no longer frigates.
Yeah, what a vile time for comedy.
Yeah. And everybody got in. Everybody got their fucking... Somebody was telling me you need to get on Twitter, and I wish that I had gotten on that racket in 2008 because I had an account in 2008, but I didn't understand the layout. It just looked stupid. It looked like coding or something. So I didn't do it. And then you see all these guys, and it's like, oh, I got this writing gig. I'm a journalist here, or I do this and X, Y, and Z. Or like, you know, an event happens and I get tickets just because I happen to have a Twitter account at the right time, which meant that everybody followed me. Anybody in Ireland followed me. And I became...
You would have been you'd be a very different person now.
I'd be so obnoxious.
It'd be interesting if you were like part of quote unquote Irish Twitter.
I tell you what, I'd be on it, no worries if I had a Twitter account in 2008.
Yeah, you might well have been.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe we watched the whole... But I was going to say the whole season, like it was more than 6 episodes, but we watched it all.
Well, we've seen it all. Seasons. So we watched the entire first season, or I believe I did anyway.
I did too. Yeah, I used to watch it with my old housemate every week. We'd log on to the RT player. We'd watch
several ads.
No worries if not.
And
this season was
better.
Yeah,
it was better.
It was better. So we'll do a quick run through.
Yeah.
The theme tune. Better.
Yeah. Credit where it's due. Michael Fry made the music, and the music is like, it just does exactly the right job. The visuals also do the right job. You're kind of like, I'm settling in for a nice little sketch show. But I will say, when you watch all of it back to back,
gets in your head a bit.
You're just kind of, you know, pressing your fingernails into the armrest.
But that's no fault of the music.
No, it's not. So that's a positive. That's the good part. You know, in the shit sandwich that you're supposed to do criticism in, which doesn't really make sense. Because the shit would be the filling as opposed to the bread. Oh no, actually it does make sense. Never mind, forget I said anything. The nice lovely bread, and then the shit, and then another nice piece of bread.
Start thinking of another bit of bread now. Just have that in the back of your head.
Yeah.
What were the 3 sketches we liked?
I think, first of all, as well, the cast felt more comfortable with each other. I kind of felt that the premise of the show made more sense, because in the first season it felt like, first of all, I have no doubt that the money was barely anything, because RT, there's no way that they invested any money. They do not invest money in comedy. They've recently just advertised a position for head of comedy. They haven't had a head of comedy since about 2018. They do not invest in comedy. But like what it did feel like is a bunch of people who have a load of Instagram followers who were like connected by a producer and then thrown into this thing, and it's like, a lot of their styles were failing to gel with the first season, whereas in the second season, it felt like they were more comfortable with each other and they were settling into their roles. And so the three sketches though, were, one of them was about the friend that nobody likes.
Oh yeah.
Called Brian. And the thing that was interesting about this to me is that, the stand-up I listened to when I was a teenager, I had burned onto a CD that I listened to ad nauseum, a Dane Cook bit about the friend that nobody likes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's a tale as old as time. That's fine. The friend that nobody likes. But the friend, he was like, this guy's name was fucking Brian.
And one of us would always see him and warn the rest of the group. We'd be like, fucking Brian's coming.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because in this sketch, which by the way, do the sketch, I don't care. But the character who's the friend that nobody wants to hang out with was also called Brian.
No fucking Brian.
You think they started off Dane Cook?
No, I don't think so. I think it was a happy coincidence. But I've done stuff like that as well, where there was a bit that I used to do when I did stand up, and I'm not good at stand up. I found myself, there was a character that I had in something I said and I called them Brian. And I only realized that, and the emphasis in the way that I said it, I realized that I called them Brian because of two bits that I had heard. One was the Dane Cook bit, which was just embedded in my memory. And the other one was an Aziz Ansari bit, where he's like, do you remember that one where he was talking about dating in the modern era with texting, Have you seen that?
No, I don't like a stand-up.
I like a stand-up.
I find him too problematic.
Yeah, all right. James's favorite stand-up is Roy Chubby Brown.
Not Roy Chubby Brown. Bernard Manning.
But Aziz Ansari has a bit where he's like talking about texting, and he goes, I say stuff, she says stuff, I say stuff, she says stuff, and then I say, do you want to hang out sometime? And then I don't hear from her, and he's like pacing the stage, and then eventually he's like, she'll get back like a few hours later, and she'll say like, sorry, I was at my niece's recital, we had to turn our phones off. He's like, whatever, I'm hanging out with my friend Brian now, he's nice to me.
Girl always writes something back. Sorry, I was at my niece's ballet recital. We had to turn off our phones. Whatever, we're done. I finished that pizza hours ago. I went with my friend Brian. He's nice to me.
But yeah, that sketch was good. And the reason it was good as well is because all of the cast were good, I thought. It was structured like a sketch. It wasn't too long. And then the editing was such that it was like cutting between all of these people, and there was a nice flow to it. And then it ended on a little like punchline. Like, I didn't really like most sketches. I don't think sketches really live or die by their punchline if it's a funny idea throughout. But this one wasn't a particularly funny punchline, but it still existed, where he's like, they're trying to reassure Brian, no, it's fine. He's all right. He likes you. We all like you. You're our friend. And then the guy shows up and sees the back of Brian's head and goes, fucking Brian, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Killian Sunderman was funny as well in his kind of mannerisms of an annoying person, but somebody who's like not so annoying that you stop hanging out with them, but just annoying enough where it's like, I can see why it wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea.
Pints and friends? Pints and friends? Pints and friends? I remember I used to say pints and friends. Pints and friends.
Yeah. Yeah. They should have called him Geath.
Geath?
Yeah.
Is it meant to be like my name?
No.
Who's Geath?
He was a guy at my school.
We've run out of Geath license plates in the gift shop. No, my son is also called Geath.
He's really annoying, but not so annoying that you'd avoid him.
It's funny, I was like, who's the annoying guy in my class at my school? I was like, oh yeah, Francois. both like Geath and Francois. Those are
Boy, you don't want to be between them at a wedding.
Yeah. Knowing my luck, that's probably just what's going to happen.
Yeah. Geath the pervert and Francois the
annoying South African. Well, the other sketch that was funny was the because they call him Caphead, don't they? You remember when he leaves the house and he's dressed exactly like you?
Yeah, he was dressed just like me.
he had a green barber jacket, like with the bees. Is it beeswax? Is it? I don't know what the material.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And then he had a white cap, identical to one that James owns. And then he had kind of pale denim jeans, but just a normal pair of jeans, you know.
Yeah.
But he like walked out, and then these girls were like, "Oh, look at Caphead! Look at fucking Caphead!" And he's just like tormented by these women, and he's going around, and the thing where it was a real Lemmy sketch. It had that vibe where he like goes back in the house and he takes off the cap, and they're like, "Oh my god, did you take off the cap because we called you Caphead?" He's like, "No, I didn't." No. Yeah, and it also had like it was well done, well acted, timed out. I thought the show looked better as well, like visually, because I actually did go back and watch like one of the episodes from season 1, and it just looks really gammy for whatever reason. I don't know anything about cameras. All I know is this one, maybe it was the color grading. There was some sort of like richness to it anyway in the second season.
It just looked like they put a bit like they had a better director, camera guy. Maybe they had a better
that fella.
assistant first grip.
Yeah. I know all about the biz. And was there another sketch that was funny? I mean, we are like, you know,
also known as Garrett's ideal job.
Which?
Assistant on a first grip.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to give some grip. All right. You know, James's ideal job, working for freaking Gript.ie.
I'm still on their mailing list.
Oh no.
It's an interesting article.
You know that they appear on like Virgin Media Tonight, like they appear on that like weekly now to talk about shit.
Yeah, they're
as if they're not like a blog, like just some right wing rag.
There is some things where you're just like, why them and not us? You know what I mean? At
this stage, yeah, because it's like, well, I mean, like we don't have probably the reach that they do, but like, here's a better question: why not The Ditch? The Ditch are not nearly on that as much as, and Gript and The Ditch, like in the last election, very different politically, but they were the ones being brought up at the door for like the referendums and
yeah.
Yeah.
Here's some stuff on their most recent mailing list.
Oh no.
They also text you the headlines if you want.
Well, by the way, we have an American listening. So Gript.ie is basically a racist right-wing blog that seems to have
like
gotten mainstream legitimacy in Ireland. Yeah, like Breitbart.
Here's some funny things about their mailing list. You can get their headlines texted to you. And then you can get they say if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe here. Or you can donate directly. And then they just have their like IBAN in the text.
That's weird. Remember Val did that as well. By the way, American man. if you are a man. Val Martin is a person who ran for the Irish Freedom Party. He's a farmer and former Garda police officer living in Cavan, Monaghan. We're not entirely sure where. I think it's where is it? Must be Cavan. Yeah.
I thought it was Monaghan.
Maybe it is. But
you
yeah,
the joke about the Cavan guy.
The joke about the Cavan. I've heard multiple jokes about the Cavan people. Yeah.
The Cavan guy, and he's in the church and he's praying and he goes, "Please, my kids need new shoes. I need a new dirty bandage for my thumb. You know, please let me win the lottery. I need a new sign for my shed, for my vlog. Please let me win the lottery." And then God says back, he hears a crack in the heavens and God speaks to him and goes, "Do me a favor, Val, buy a ticket."
Yes, I do know that one. I actually thought that joke was very inspiring because it's kind of telling you, you know what? if you don't
don't
put
buy-
yourself out there, then you're not going to get anywhere. So it's a lot of like, you know, as well as it being funny, it's also true, is what I'm saying.
Val makes a lot of good points, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Here's this is one my dad told me about a Cavan joke. I like it. Tell me what you think. Immediately hates it just because I said I like it. That's so typical of you. I can hear your brain
I haven't
priming
even
to
said I
hate it.
hate it yet.
I just know. So 2 Cavan men are on the train.
Also, sorry, whenever you say
Yeah.
anything like that, I get a text from Rob going, see, Gareth agrees. You do
Agrees
do that.
what? Which?
That, like, I hate things just because people say I like them, they like them.
Yeah, you do.
I don't.
You do. How many films or like TV shows that I've recommended have you watched? I deliberately do not recommend things to you because I know then that you definitely won't watch them. And I just hope that somehow accidentally you come across them organically.
Okay, that's insane because you recommend stuff to me all the time.
Sometimes I can't keep it in. But there
Okay.
are some things where I'm like, you know. And then there's some things I've just given up that you'll ever watch, like Twin Peaks. I'm like, I'll just talk about Twin Peaks now.
The Sopranos.
The work of David Lynch. Sopranos, I'm not really like.
I've
I
seen
like
The
the
Elephant
Sopranos,
Man.
but yeah, you did, and you were like, "Oh, I didn't like it."
The Elephant Boy.
So 2 guys from Cavan. Or is it 2 guys? I mean, whatever. They're going
They're
down
from
on a
somewhere.
train to Dublin for the racing. Okay,
Yeah.
and then one of them asks the other one, "Do you want a polo mint?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." And then he goes, eventually, "Do you want another polo mint?" He goes, "Ah, sure, when you're out for the day."
Right. Now, you told me that one because you know I hate it.
I didn't know that you hate it. Why do you hate it?
I don't get it.
It's like he's like going to treat himself, but he's treating himself to another little polo.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't really get it in terms of like why what's specific about it for Cavan. It just
I
made
feel
me
like
think that people in Cavan are kind of weird and sheltered.
See, I also feel like the thing about Cavan is that they're cheap, right?
That's the thing. Yeah, yeah.
But it's not. The polo is free.
Yeah.
So
I guess it doesn't
Is
make
it-
sense as a Cavan man joke, but I can't think of anybody who you can assign to that. Somebody who's just like so easily impressed, basically.
yeah. I like the one about the Cavan man who wins the lottery. He goes home and he says to his wife, "We won the lottery, pack your bags."
Mm,
She goes, "Where are we going?" And he goes, "Anywhere you like, I'm throwing you out."
nice.
Or the one, some of them you can just, think of any Jewish joke, and
Pretty much. Yeah.
why you Cavan people have such big noses is a good one.
Why?
Because air is free.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
Because polo mints are free. Yeah. I had a good joke for comedians recently,
mm,
and every comedian I've told it to has really enjoyed it,
okay.
but other people haven't.
All right. Go for it.
There's this comedian on the road, and he, he's doing a tour. After the show, he goes back to his room, to his hotel by himself. And this woman, he hears a knock on the door. He opens the door. It's the most beautiful woman he's ever seen in his life. She's on the other side. And she goes, "I was at your show earlier. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, It was just so funny. The only reason I wasn't maybe the only person laughing the most is because I was thinking about sexy man I've ever seen in my life. And I rang every hotel in the town and I hunted you down and I came here and I found your room number. And it's just because I want to spend the night with you. I want to have sex with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? And the comedian goes, were you at the early show or the late show?
That's good. That's funny. I like that. Did you hear that or did you come up with it or what?
No, I heard it.
Yeah.
It is funny though, isn't it? Every comedian out there knows. Oh, we know.
Yeah. That's the comedians. They're always honing their craft. So as well as it being funny, it's also true yet again. So hats off to you, James. The comedians should be the troops, but they're not the troops for some reason. For some reason, the troops are the troops.
Yeah, if it was a soldier, he'd be like, were you in Abu Ghraib or
Yeah.
some other?
We're soldiers, and laughter is like our bullet. Just a bullet going into somebody. We bring people to life instead of bringing them to death as well.
And we're sort of on the receiving end of our bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't laugh. We make others laugh.
Yeah, and we live and die up there, okay? You ever died? There's a reason they call it bombing, okay?
Yeah, just like the troops, nobly bombing.
Yeah, we bomb and
civilians.
we kill. But it's an entirely different thing.
I might start calling, non-comedy doers civilians.
Did you watch that guy who does the really good Trump impression that they scooped up for Saturday Night Live and destroyed?
No.
James Austin Johnson? He does the Scooby-Doo one.
No.
Oh, you do? You're messing with me now.
What is the Scooby-Doo impression?
No, do you know where he goes, Scooby-Doo doesn't do anything Scooby doesn't do. We're calling him Scooby-Doo and he doesn't do. It's a terrible deal. And he does a really good version of Trump.
No, that's funny though.
There's one. Let me pull up the one that I've got. Hopefully now we can share this video. This computer, it's so depressing. It's so bleak. Less than a year old.
You better get it in before that warranty.
I will. But I'm just convinced that they'll do nothing and they'll send it back, and then the warranty will expire anyway.
Hey, as the Calvin man said to God, buy me a ticket.
Yeah. It'll be give me a ticket for
a new computer.
Yes, exactly. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like you have at the butcher's or something, I don't know. Yeah, you go to the butcher, you take a ticket, and then you wait until your number's called out. The old classic butcher. You never been to the freaking butcher before?
Just the pork butcher.
Just the pork. Have you got that there?
James Austin Johnson.
I'm going to break down just for my own amusement.
Yeah, sure.
James is awesome Trump, because I think that the way you do it is like free association jazz, and I know you can.
I wanted to say that a podcast clip of mine that I think it caught on with like Seth Meyers and his group of friends, because it was Trump talking about 2000s New York alt comedy. It was like I had been doing Trump.
Do you want to do it a little bit?
Then our guest Whit Thomas was like, "Hey, weren't you a comic back then in the 2000s in New York?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know what? It was so wonderful to be with comedy. You know what? With comedy, it was never about the shows. It was never about the shows. It was about the diner afterwards. We loved the diner, and I'd be eating pancakes. Excuse me."
Oh, he's a little tamer back then.
Can I talk, please? She's not giving me any moment to talk. I'm eating pancakes with Patrice O'Neill, and I just can't believe that I get to do this every night. It's so wonderful. Greatest city on earth. And you do Gotham, and you do Rafifi, and maybe you'd get a spot at the Boston or something, and a couple dollars in your pocket, and you say, oh, this is a pretty good gig. Made $300 tonight, maybe buy a PlayStation or go to Gap.
Now that I like.
Yeah, I like that one. The Great Patrice O'Neill. That one just like, if you're listening to those Mark Maron podcasts or any of that shit, fucking.
Bernard does a good bit. We should have him on just to do it.
We should.
It's Bernard Manning doing alternative comedy. Like British alternative comedy.
Yeah.
Just Bernard Manning doing like, trying to think of a comedian. Tim Vine, maybe?
I don't know much of Tim Vine's stuff. He's got like a lot of one-liners, isn't that it?
Yeah, maybe that's not the best example then.
Stuart Lee?
Yeah, he does Stuart Lee.
I told you that time that I saw Carl Spain open for Stuart Lee, but because his sets are about like, going on diets or shit like that,
Really?
he would just like, Carl Spain.
Talks about going on diets.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you go, oh, he's like me. He struggles to maintain a diet, clearly. But I guess I only bring that up because it's the only joke that I ever remember by Carl Spain, despite the fact I've seen him, like involuntarily seen him at a million times at all of these gigs.
Yeah, same guy doing both these things, right? Going to see the Titanic movie. I'm going, I wonder how it ends.
Is that one of his jokes?
No. And then same guy goes to see Carl Spain doing stand-up about going on a diet. I'm going, I wonder how it ends.
He like, the joke was, me and diets are a lot like, I don't know, like the Champions League Cup final or something like that. He'll go like, or like some football team, I don't know, like a shit football team, he's going to be like us taking part in, it's a lot like Tottenham taking part in blah, blah, blah. It starts off with a lot of optimism, then, peters out, and then eventually ends violently in a kebab shop one night. Anyway, what was the point? Oh yeah, Carl Spain, when he was opening for Stuart Lee, he realized that he kind of had to adapt his material slightly for this crowd,
To the NCAD.
Yeah, the thoughtful alternative comedy audience. So what he did is he just took his usual material and just did it the same delivery as Stuart Lee.
Yes.
Which is very funny. Just to be like, see, diets for me, a diet, is a lot like, have anybody here been on a diet? He likes it. He doesn't like it. He's not been on a, that type of...
Yeah.
Trying to think of, I'm not good. We need Ronan on to do this. Ronan to do Carl Spain's material in the style of Stuart Lee. Take me back.
Carl Spain was in the new season of...
Oh yeah, he was.
Sorry to be here.
Did we finish our review of that?
No.
Is it much of a review? Is it fair to review it? I mean, I'm always kind of like, I have done stuff for RTE, so I know how like difficult it is and how
we're just talking about it.
Yeah, we're just talking about it, but like it's clear that we're not talking about it like it's our favorite thing in the world, is what I'm saying.
Did you not like it?
Shut up. I'm a defender of all of these people. Hey, I'm not making stuff.
off.
You're out there and you're making stuff. And let me tell you, if you're pulling together a writer's room in the future, I will gladly pick up some of that slack. Okay?
Yeah.
I know how tough it can be, and I'll do it for a fraction of the cost of the other guys.
What was the other sketch we liked?
I just like the general... that's the other thing I was going to say earlier on, is that I like Michael Fry's grandfather remembering things.
Oh, yeah.
Although these weren't his finest, I'll have to say. But I'll never. I do like whenever he goes like, he talks about when he's like 5 years old, and then somebody comes up and calls him granddad, because that's what they called me back then. That's funny.
See, he switched it because for these ones it was like, when I was young, I went to the mine when I was 2 and all this.
Yeah.
I like the ones where it's like when I was young.
SpongeBob.
Yeah, it's like there was a man named Squidward and he was a Protestant,
Protestant man, he's a decent man. Yeah, that was funny.
They're really funny.
Yeah.
What?
No, just the one where he's like, and that's the way it was back then. You're 10 years old, they say, right, it's time to go off and get your starter, head out there into the grasslands and make yourself a Pokemon master. And that's the way it was back then.
Yeah. It's like, and then he had a friend called Patrick who lived under a rock. my granddad had some story about a family who lived in a hedge.
Yeah.
In Donegal.
Yeah.
That's just how it was. Some people lived in hedges. The story is that he gave him a bottle of whiskey at Christmas.
Yeah. That'll keep him warm.
That'll keep all 10 of the kids warm.
But yeah, don't walk, run to the RTE Player to see the second season of Can't Cope. What is it called again?
Sorry to be here.
Don't. Do you know the other one? There's a one that's so difficult. I'm even now. So the other thing that we did while we were there is we were scrolling down through. We got like a big scoop. Like last year, a podcast was started that I cannot remember the name of, where their first episode was interviewing Barry Cowan. Now this is. I'm going to put the episode number in here. Leave a pause for that.
Episode 34. I don't know what I expected. Time code 1 hour 27 minutes.
And
it's well worth going back to. That was
you pay a $5 or €6 a month, whatever it is. Go back to that episode, listen to our breakdown of that interview, the wildest thing you'll ever hear.
It's Aideen McQueen.
Yeah.
And who's the other one?
Some other lady. Don't know who it is.
Interview with Barry Cowan. Barry Cowan sounds like he's about to hit them by about 2 minutes in.
He's at that moment, he's like, I think he's running in the European elections. So like somebody's told him like, go on to this young millennial woman podcast and get interviewed about what your favorite type of chicken roll is or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, fine, but I refuse to have a good time. And then he goes on and he is fucking raging. Barry Cowan as well, for anybody. Barry Cowan, brother of Brian Cowan. He was a minister in the last government, or maybe he was, and then
for about 20 minutes.
For like 20 minutes, he was a minister in the last government, but then he drove away from a Garda checkpoint when they were testing for drink. And he refused to step down, was forced to step down, and then conducted a bunch of interviews while he was running for the Euros, basically complaining that Micheál Martin betrayed him, but that he'll never forgive him, but also it's maybe fine, probably, but not. And then he won the Euros handily. Now he's in Europe, which is like one of the cushier gigs that you can get for a politician like him. His brother is Brian Cowan, who used to be the Taoiseach, who was also a lush, who got drunk on Galway radio one time, famously. Also kind of was Minister for Finance just before the crash, and then was Taoiseach during the darkest days of the crash. Was called Biffo, big ignorant fucker from Offaly, one of the ugliest looking men to ever live.
Yeah, he looks crazy. He looks like a Bo Selecta puppet.
Yeah, almost. And Bo Selecta is not. We're not going to get that. But then he also, like, they were like, oh, he's got cancer and he might be on the way out. And I was like, we're sure it's not liver failure, but anyway, good riddance. Then he comes back to perfect health, and now he's involved in legal weed and cryptocurrency, and it's like, fuck ye all anyway.
Yeah.
So Barry Cowan comes from that dynasty, and I will not spoil a single bit of that podcast. I will hint that one of the questions that as a tease, will say one of the questions that he has asked is, "Who are your political role models?" So you have to hear that.
One. Yeah, his answers are really good.
Yeah, we're not spoiling it. You got to pay for that because we were doing the hard graft out here of listening to this stuff and researching it. So we were like, I was checking up like what, because you know they have the millennial title, like No Worries If Not, like Can't Cope, Won't Cope. It was like, and then like Stephanie Preisner's podcast, No Time to Get in Stephanie Preisner. Stephanie Preisner has a podcast called What's the Story? And or something like that. Or no, it's called Basically with Stephanie Preisner, and each episode is What's the Story with being the Minister for Finance, Pascal Donoghue.
This is an issue I have with the Preisner's podcast and the one we're talking to. They both have a, because hers is called Basically, and you assume the naming convention would be basically what? You know, basically finance. Yeah. Said it's What's the Story with. And
well, the crucial thing is basically is the crucial part of that title is it's basically ... So it's meant to be like, okay, basically like she's explaining something to you. But
yeah, I know, but
to me it's still very just American, to be honest.
It's
to go
just
like basically
and then what's the one we're talking about? What's it called?
I don't know why I'm thinking like, come here till I tell you. It's not even that though. It's actually more generic. It's called
Aiden.
What are we talking about? What's the crack?
Can I just ask?
Can I just ask? And every single, I swear to, like, so I was like, what were they talking about recently? We were scrolling down through it. They do like episodes very sporadically. And then they had interview with Barry Heenan, and we were like, stop the presses, we need to listen to this. So we cracked it on in the car. But yeah, the thing is, yeah,
it's from when he was running. He just been elected councillor, and he was just announcing his campaign for TD.
Yeah. And I swear to God, this isn't a bit, okay? I was about to say like, oh, I looked it up. We were in a restaurant. I looked it up. And then I was like, we have to watch that. We got into the car. And then we were like, what's the name of that podcast again? And I couldn't remember it, even though I'd seen it like 10 minutes ago. And now I'm like, literally, I was about to say, and you know, when of course the name of the podcast is, and I've already forgotten it again. I don't know what it is about. What is it about that collection of words that is so like innocuous that it just, what is the name of the fucking show again?
Can I just ask?
Okay.
That's not enough there.
Can I ask what is going on? So they give him like the cushiest little interview ever. Good God, what did they even say on the podcast? Like, was there any good bits to it?
So, first of all, they have him on. They're like, "You're so young, but you look so old." No, they have him on, and then they're like, "You're like a socialist, aren't you?" Sort of thing.
God.
And he's "I am." And he tells a story about a socialist who lived in his area, who was a big influence on him, supposedly. And then there's a mad bit where he's like, when she was sick, and I painted a picture of Che Guevara for her. And then remember, he's like, and that was before I knew about all the problematic stuff to do with Che Guevara.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to do that with Che Guevara.
I know. So then he made this like tea towel, and then somebody came over to the house who apparently was like a politician or something like that. And they saw it, and they were like, who did that? And they were like, Barry did that. And that's basically how he got recruited to be a politician.
Barry the fella who painted that painting should run.
Yeah.
That story doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. it's just one of the most insane heel turns. Well, it's not really. I mean, you can see it a mile off, but like when you hear him there going like, you know, oh, obviously we need to protect people in like Palestine, and you know, obviously the Che Guevara tea towel and like all of this type of stuff, and you know, he's a Gaeilgeoir and he's kind of boasting about that, and they're both like very like, oh, it's good to have another Gaeilgeoir in there, and he's an environmentalist and all that. And then to see the heel turn where he's like standing next to Michael Lowry, who's flipping off Paul Murphy, and he's wearing that stupid suit with his gut hanging out, and he looks like any other rural independent shithead, and it's like, yeah, it's a very funny betrayal. I don't know. There was a lot of softball questions. I don't really remember them. I remember we got out and it was like, I can't believe we listened to that because there's genuinely like, what was the fucking point? You know?
It was half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Provided no insight whatsoever. But it did allow us to talk about the good episode that we did, which was Barry Heenan, which was Barry Cowan being interviewed by them.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. What's in the news? So the Pope's dead, the Pope's funeral.
R.I.P.
And guess what? Zelensky still couldn't get a fucking suit.
Yeah, I don't really mind Zelensky not wearing a suit.
I'm going to be like super right-wing asshole that I hate. But he needs to wear a suit to the Pope's fucking funeral. You can't wear your little war costume to. And then there was a picture of him in like St. Peter's Basilica sitting down talking with Trump. And I thought it was like, it was Gavin Riley shared it like powerful image or something. I was like, what the fuck is powerful about this? And I thought the Trump had just met him in Ukraine and he was doing like, give us more javelins or whatever. I was like, no, you're at the Pope's funeral trying to shake down the president. And apparently he walks outside and then gets a big round of applause from everybody. And I was like, have some decorum here.
The man is dead.
Man is dead. And there's a guy wearing trackies going around looking for fucking money to fund an endless war.
You hate people in tracksuits.
It's like I always say, people in tracksuits ruin this country.
Yeah. Wasn't men in suits who hurt this country.
Yeah, it was guys in tracksuits who made me feel unsafe to walk down O'Connell Street.
Yeah. But we were talking about the protests there. You know, and you were like...
Well, yeah, I was like, what?
You were like, it's not immigrants who've hurt this country. It's fucking scumbag.
It's fucking gross. That's what I've been saying. Weren't we on the same stretch of street where these fellas who are now marching were kicking in windows to get fucking expensive Nike shoes? I noticed that the bookshops remain entirely unvandalized.
Yeah. Yeah, a fellow at work said that to me once.
Ugh. That's no good.
Completely unsurprisingly. People use the phrase benefit street quite a lot.
That show had some real lasting damage, didn't it?
Really did. The Pope's dead. I read it's between the left-wing Filipino guy and an extremely right-wing Hungarian guy.
I love when people are like, the Pope died and then people are like, well, he supported Gaza and he was ringing them every day, all the ministries that were there. And also it's easy to forget that, like, you know, between all the like bombardment of like Gaza and Arabs, well, I shouldn't say Arabs, but like the Muslim population, like they're also like shooting up like Catholic churches, you know, like, do you remember there was like a church and basically everybody was like, there was like maybe like 12 people in there and they were in there for like a week, just slowly starving to death. And if you got up and tried to walk to another room, that the IDF would just snipe you and they would stop every now and again to let them to go to the toilet, but then they'd have to return to the rooms and just keep sitting there and just dying, you know? And but that just doesn't get talked about at all. But anyway, he was like, he's been one of the few world leaders who was outspoken about Palestine. He just was like, that's just straight up. That's it. Okay. And then people are like I don't have a huge problem with Pope Francis, but like when I mean, I have a problem with them for the obvious reasons, but with the people will go like, oh, did you know that he's a homophobe? So maybe we shouldn't be like saying, oh, he was a decent man. And I'm just thinking, he's the head of the fucking Catholic Church. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
he also did. He allowed for not for blessing of gay marriage,
and
not just to cure them or anything.
Yeah.
I feel like that the last guy would have done that, Benedict. Yeah. He'd be like, yeah, we're blessing gay people. But like,
I'm still not over Benedict just going like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna bow out. I was like, well, God selected you, didn't he? Yeah, but I gotta do right by me, you know?
Yeah. I was reading about the last English Pope. It was like 1100.
Wow.
It'd be good to get old Blighty back in the throne, wouldn't it?
You know, back where they belong, the head of a pedophile empire.
But I'd love is the most interesting one would be an American Pope.
Sorry, I was just thinking about like one of the cardinals from England putting forward his CV and just going, and as you know, I have extensive experience with dealing with high-ranking pedophiles. And they're interesting. We'll have to take that in. I mean, God will have to take that into account. And then he kind of leaves, and then they're like, his wife is like, how did the interview go? His wife. I knew what I was doing there. I did know what I was doing there. Yeah. No, his what was it? His gay concubine is like, how did it go? And I was like, I don't know. I kind of messed up some questions, but I think it went well.
Yeah. And America would be the best, I think.
Yeah. That would be really funny. Hey, they replaced the freaking Eucharist with a bunch of cheeseburgers, am I right?
That would be so funny.
Yeah, and tasty.
And true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wine would be
Kool-Aid.
And the church would be sponsored by Kool-Aid as well.
Guess what? They'd make the Pope Mobile like 10 times bigger. And it wouldn't be able to drive on European roads.
Yeah. And he'd be stupid.
Yeah, he's gonna have fucking like an AI whatever read the Bible to him because he can't fucking read it.
Yeah.
What does the Pope do? Hey, what about this? Instead of living in a freaking art gallery, he'd change the Sistine Chapel into like a cinema. It'd be like moving, like paintings.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it actually would be cool.
I think I'd rather live as the American Pope. Have you ever seen The Young Pope?
No, never.
Great show.
You watch all the Pope shows?
Yeah. Suppose I do.
Other when Conclave came out, you were the first person. Have you seen Conclave? Like, just straight away. It's like your Marvel movies, all the Pope stuff.
But it's a bit at the start. You know, he comes down. There's all this thing about like, they're making him breakfast, and they're like, it's an American Pope.
Yeah.
Then he comes down, and he doesn't want any of the food. He goes like, I want a cigarette and a Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Good. I'd like to live like that.
I'm trying to think of another American thing.
Yeah, what else do Americans do? He'd drive everywhere. Sort of already said that one.
He'd be like reading out. Well, I know I just said that he wouldn't read, but for this thing, he would read. But everything he read would like have an inflection at the end. He'd speak like a valley girl.
I think it would also be interesting because he'd either like be really friendly with Trump, or he'd like hate him, you know. So that either way, seeing them like swabble in English would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking we missed out on a big one with the Pope. It would have to be the American Pope, something with guns. You know what he'd do? He'd put in a new commandment, and it would be, "Thou has the right to bear arms."
Yeah, he'd shoot God.
Yeah. Because the God had come down to say, "I've made a mistake. I'd never let an American do this." You. And they're like, "What was that?" Nothing.
Oh, nothing. An Irish Pope, I think we've talked about that before. That'd be good.
Yeah.
The wine would be whiskey, and the
Yeah.
Eucharist be crisps, and
Yeah. Which crisps though? Don't get me started.
yeah. And at the start of the mass, he'd come out with a pack of crisps, and he'd open them, and he'd go, "All right, lads, help yourselves." You know, like,
I just imagine him doing like, you know, the thing where it's like, you know, ominous domine, you know, like whatever the fuck, we're pointing towards the heaven, left, right, and then just taking like a sort of like his fingernails and then driving them down the middle of the packet, so it creates this, you know, tear.
yeah.
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 What about he? No, that wouldn't work.
What?
I was trying to think of how, you know, when they take... I've not been to church. Like, I've been to church maybe like... I could count the amount of times on, like, one hand, okay? But, you know, they take up the big biscuit and then they, like, split it in half. And I'm trying to imagine what that would be. First of all, if it was American, it'd be a cookie, done. If it was if it was Ireland, it'd be like he's tearing the chicken fillet roll in half or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. He's like, "Do you want this cut in half?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if it was cured up, he's going spicy or plain. And then he'd be a paedophile, but in like a really vicious way. And all the other priests would be like, "Fucking hell!" Like, we sort of like make love to the children, whereas this guy's like cracking their head off the pew and stuff. It's like, I don't know if we're okay with this.
I'm done with this one. Just throws it off behind. They've like installed an open septic tank that you can just throw it directly into.
Yeah.
These are a little younger than we're used to. Really? This is perfectly normal back home.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, just it's funny to walk it back. Just be like, yeah, when he's doing the Eucharist, you go spicy or plain.
Yeah. He'd. He drunk?
I'm trying to think of something that he would do. Like he would take the nails off of the crucifix and like he'd reuse them for something else. But I don't think that's.
What if the Pope was from Cavan? Here we go.
Yeah. Pope is from Cavan. Something about petrol. I'm just thinking about petrol, like the Pope Mobile trying to save money on petrol.
Yeah, it runs on green diesel.
I was thinking that he would like, siphon gas out of a car. Petrol out of a car. The Americans, man. Got in my head. The American Pope would siphon gas out of the car. The Irish Pope would siphon petrol out of a car.
Yeah.
What do you call that though, where you put the tube down and you suck out the petrol?
Siphon.
It is siphoning. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was something else. There's got to be another good one, surely.
For which nationality?
Irish Pope, particularly Cavan Pope. So I got one. Okay, so the Pope is heading on a trip. Okay, going to see the horses or something. And one of his security guards offers him a polo mint and he takes it, okay? And then a few minutes later offers him another polo mint and he goes, sure, when you're out for the day. And that's what the Cavan Pope would be like.
Yeah. Ara Sherpy Gara
Yeah.
when you're out for the day.
And he'd have a chin strap beard, and instead of wearing that big hat, it'd be a big stovepipe hat. Stovepipe.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what the hell?
And he'd walk
Do you hear
around
that?
with 4 legs.
What the hell is
No.
going on? Where's that coming from? Is that going to be going on the whole time?
It does not. That's the end of the free bit. Go to patreon.com/KeltyClaggers to hear the rest where the Ligers talk about kneecap condemning Hamas boo-hiss, God save the new housing czar, and the far-right racist marches which took place in Dublin last weekend. Bleak.